Actually, we can make it go back even more. Huh. This worked better in my head. Welcome to the shop. My name is Tavarish, and this is Wrench Every Day. Jared's not here today. He's off doing Jared things, but we're going to hang out. We're going to have a lot of fun. So if you're new to the channel and you're new to this project, then this thing above me is my Lexus SC300, and the thing behind me is my Lexus SC300's engine, and the thing behind that is the new engine that we're going to put in here, and that's going to make this a Lexus IS-F, the first in the world. And I'm super excited because projects like this essentially make me relive my youth. Not only because I had a Lexus SC300 when I was 19 and I did a bunch of mods to it to varying degrees of success. Boom. You have an instant hood prop.
These are slightly delicate electronics. You kind of want to mount them so they're not bouncing around.
This wiring is not mine. It has some fitment issues, and I didn't know how to cut wires, apparently. I love doing projects like this that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, but they have an awesome result at the end. But speaking of something that doesn't cost a lot of money, has awesome results, and makes you relive your youth, I should probably talk about today's sponsor, and that is Keeps. So I don't know if you guys know this, so I'm gonna let you in on a little bit of a secret. You see, my hair, this stuff up here, is what's known as a problem. You see, I've been experiencing male pattern baldness for the last 10 years. From my late 20s to early 30s, I'm 34 now. And it turns out that 2 out of 3 guys, by the time they're 35, will experience some form of male pattern baldness. But you can stop that process in its tracks if you just do something while you still have some hair left. Yeah, I still got some. So the way Keeps works is a licensed doctor will review your information online and recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you. Then your treatment is shipped directly to your door every 3 months. It's a more affordable option since Keeps offers generic versions of FDA-approved medications for hair loss. Now, prevention is key. Keeps treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months or more to start seeing results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/wrencheveryday to get 50% off your first order. That's in the link in the video description below. It's keeps.com/wrencheveryday. Go check it out right now. All right, so let's begin. We're going to start by taking a tour of the IS-F engine, and I'm going to show you its quirks and features. That's not the right channel. We are going to be doing some sort of surgery to the subframe area. So the subframe is the thing that sits underneath the engine. It's essentially the cradle that goes into the car. You can see these studs right here. That's what hold the subframe in the car. And also there's some bolts back here. Now the subframe on the IS-F is actually a little bit narrower than it is in the SC, which might help us and it might hurt us depending on how the mounts line up. But before we do any of that on this subframe, we have to work on this subframe, and I'm going to be taking off the brakes, then the exhaust manifolds to give us a little bit more room with the mount situation here. And then I'm going to take the engine off, and then we're going to see if we can take off that steering rack, because it's an electric steering rack instead of the hydraulic steering rack that's on the Lexus SC. I don't know if anything's going to fit. I wager the engine could fit okay, but we're going to find that out today. So let's get to work. Now, believe it or not, to get to this stage, it took over 3 hours. And it's because, well, some bolts were really hard to get to, some bolts broke, and I needed to figure out how to maneuver this engine hoist underneath the pallet because we didn't have enough space. But it's okay. We have the engine apart from the subframe. They are completely divorced. They're not going back together again. We're going to take a look at that subframe in a minute, but I wanted to show you the exhaust manifolds. And right here you can see there's a problem. So this one was cracked all the way around. This created a bunch of leaks. Well, actually one very big leak. So these are basically trash. So we definitely need to get some headers. But if we take a look at the engine, it's on these little rolly dollies, and it's okay, I'm not gonna do that too much. I think it should be okay for us to move it around a bit, but I want to take a look at that subframe. Now the subframe is very, very simple. It's just two mounting tabs, well, two engine mounts for the engine, and then we have our steering rack. And if we have any chance of using this steering rack, which is electric, that one's hydraulic, we are going to have to recreate these mounts, which I think we can do because this just goes directly into the subframe. And I think maybe if we drill and make some mounts and do some welding, then maybe, just maybe, this can fit up in there. But right now, why don't we get that engine off so we can do some measurements here, and then maybe offer up the engine to its new home. Well, it's new old home, because that is very, very old. I think I need to mention this just in case anybody's watching and thinks that this is the right way to do it. This is not the right way to do it. The problem is we got these engines on pallets, and there's no way to raise pallets and put an engine hoist underneath the pallets without lifting them with a hydraulic jack, and you have to do it on both sides. And I don't have another hydraulic jack, but I do have a pallet jack that is very, very, let's just say it's not super sturdy, but we got the engine hoist underneath. And what's great about the 2JZ, and honestly all old Toyota engines, they have these little awesome hooks. So one right there and one right back there. So it makes getting an engine hoist, like a load leveler or something like that, on here super duper easy. On that engine, the modern engine, that wasn't very good because I had to basically make my own. It's like a choose your own adventure, and all the adventures lead with broken parts. So this should be coming apart, maybe. All right, let's kind of moment of truth here. I'll pick up the slack. So level the load. And you should absolutely not do this in any case, but definitely don't do it with one hand like I'm doing right now. We want it to lift pretty center, like so. All the weight is in the middle, so it doesn't slide one way or the other, because when the weight gets taken up by the hoist, all this is just going to go all floppy. So let's hope I don't have anything connected. Look at that, it's coming off. Something else still connected? Or do I just need to give this a nice little kick? looks like it's still on that mount. So if I just, yeah, there we go. That's good. Alright, so that wasn't sketchy at all. This actually was a lot harder to do than the more modern engine, but we got everything else divorced. There's a lot of divorce happening in this shop today. What I can tell you about this is that right off the bat, these mounts, the spacing looks way smaller, and I took a tape measure, and this is 17.5 inches from this bolt to this bolt, and over here you can already see how much wider it is. From that bolt to that bolt, it is 22 inches. So there's 4.5 inches difference, but I wager that it could be a difference just in the mounts. So if we take this mount, you can see that it's like kind of hugging the block. It's pretty close to the block, but over here, you see that it's kind of like way out there. So I'm not sure if that makes up a difference, but what we're going to do is we're going to take that mount off, and then we're going to offer it up to the other engine just with like one bolt, just to see if the spacing is okay, and then we're going to offer it up to this subframe. One telltale sign that you have an SC300 or a Supra or anything with any sort of miles on it is this. Whoops. So this happens all the time to Supras and SC300s and 400s. Their mounts just disintegrate, and this is one of the reasons why on my other SC I had hockey pucks, and those actually lasted for many years. So we're definitely not using these mounts. We might end up using the IS-F mounts, but I think the mounting situation is going to be some custom thing, like maybe over here. So we're going to have to weld or fabricate a mount that goes right here, and then we can kind of put everything in its place. But I'm going to disassemble this a little bit more, then we're going to bring that engine in and see where everything sort of lines up. And hopefully I don't destroy another pallet and an engine or something, because this was sketchy the first 2 times, third time's a charm, so hopefully we don't go to the hospital today. Alright, so we are on the final approach because that's the engine and that's the subframe, and these two things are from different cars. Now I have taken off everything from the subframe, the steering rack, the control arms, everything that would make this super heavy, because this was super heavy with all that stuff on it. But it all came off. It wasn't too big of a deal, except for the fact that all the bolts were basically rusted and a lot of elbow grease was used. But now it's just an aluminum subframe, and it really doesn't weigh all that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up, we're going to slide this underneath, and then we're going to see if, well, the mounts line up. They're not going to, but, you know, we might get lucky. Maybe. Fingers crossed. Since this doesn't weigh all that much anymore, I can just lift it up. It's gonna have to be kind of precariously angled here. Actually, we can make it go back even more. Huh. This worked better in my head. We got another dolly with some wood blocks. And I think this should work pretty well. Slide that underneath. And boom. This actually isn't too bad. So what I'm trying to see is if this is going to line up with this. Now I already see that this is way too narrow. So we're going to have to take this mount off right here and possibly just make almost a straight mount down, or we graft the mount from the other subframe and then just put it on here. It's going to be a little bit difficult because, well, this is aluminum and it's cast aluminum, and cast aluminum is notoriously hard to weld to, depending on what the casting process is. But let me lower this down a little bit so we have a better idea of how close it is. Then I'll show you guys sort of the details. Also, my engine hoist, it's not very big on nuance, like it doesn't do a little bit, so I have to really, okay. If you try to do this one-handed, it just like flops down. Okay. And I think we have contact there. And honestly, oh wow, this is, holy crap. So the oil pan is a perfect fit. Let me show you guys. So take a look at that. The oil pan fits almost perfectly. I mean, we just move this like that and there's plenty of space on all sides. It's like it was made for it. Now, the thing is, if you look right here, the mount is a little bit offset. But to be honest, I mean, if we just make, like, this is just one straight bolt pattern, like it's just a flat piece of metal that you can put there, and then we can just make an L, then make a mount that goes directly into the stock mount location. That is really crazy, and we have plenty of space for suspension and everything. Nothing's gonna hit. I have plenty of space for headers, actually. There's a lot of room here. Now we are gonna have to find out how everything fits in the car, because I think this is a little bit further forward, but forward is actually not an issue on this car. I would love to have it sit a little bit further back, and I think we could probably do that if we cut a little bit out of this. And this is steel. It's like a little K-member here. So we could probably cut a little bit out of that and then move this further back. But then again, I need to see how this all lines up, because this transmission is actually physically longer than the other transmission. But if we're sitting further forward here, then that means that this could potentially line up. This is looking very, very promising. All right, so I am super, super happy about that. In the next coming episodes on this build, we are going to be grafting on a bunch of stuff to that subframe and making everything work just as it would be in the Lexus IS-F. Now, that's going to be in the next episode, like I mentioned, because I am not the best welder, I'm not the best fabricator, and I happen to know that Jared's a little bit better than me in both those things. He's also not the best in those things, but I think two minds working on this can make this a perfect project. And when I mean perfect, I mean, well, it's going to be good. It's definitely going to be the best on YouTube. So I can't wait for that to happen. I honestly, this car is my favorite out of all of my projects, including the ones on my main channel, because this is honestly how I would have built a car back in the day. Take something that didn't fit in the car. Maybe it was an engine, maybe it was something smaller, but take that and then put it in the car by any means necessary, and you don't have to spend $1 billion while doing it. And that is the point of this channel, and I'm super excited for you guys to see the finished product. I'm super excited to see the finished product, and I'm super excited to finally see this thing running and driving, and hopefully that happens sometime soon. Now, the engine is just one part of this equation. We still have all of this. This is literally all of the Lexus parts that have to go into that car, and that is going to be a very fun time. But I think that's going to be it for today's episode, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this series, because we have a lot coming up. So this is me, Tavarish, telling you guys to always make questionable choices. And if somebody gives you the ability to buy a Lexus IS-F for its drivetrain, definitely buy it, because it's awesome and it's going to make an awesome car. I don't know if that made any sense, but please buy more of these engines. These things are amazing.